So I think the big question on everybody's mind is what happened? Obviously, I look a little bit different right now than I did in my last video. And that's because my life has gone through some changes. And I want to talk about it. I haven't posted any videos in a month and a half, 2 months. Well, I did that vlog, but that was it. And my social media postings have been significantly reduced. I've been keeping everything pretty close to my chest, giving myself time to heal. But I want to talk about everything that's gone on because this channel is a place for me to share my thoughts in my life. And there are things happening. Life is continuing to move forward, and I want to be able to talk about those things as well. I had projects that I was really excited about that came to a screeching halt when everything happened, and I want to pick those back up. I want to continue living my life, but I don't feel like I can until I kind of clear the air about everything that has gone on since. And I realize I don't owe anyone an explanation. I don't owe anyone anything, but for myself, I think I need to do that because I think it's important for me to definitively lay out, create a chain of events in order to move forward. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. So, a little over a month ago, January 14th, at around 6 in the morning, Stuart had already gone to work. And if you don't know, at the time we had 2 dogs, 2 blue heelers or Australian cattle dogs that were litter mates. They were both males, and Stuart had had them since they were puppies. I had known them for a really, really long time. They were really good dogs. I never had any reason to think that anything was wrong with either of them. I mean, they were males and they were uncut. So there's a lot of testosterone and that kind of thing, but any issues that we ran into, and they were mild, we chalked up to just, male hormones, basically. We figured they would grow out of it eventually and everything would be fine. The one in particular, Maverick, was the one that gave us the most trouble, but we thought that if we just were patient and set strong boundaries and were firm disciplinarians, that everything would be fine. There was never a reason for us to think that he was going to do anything. But he didn't like me very much, and I think it was because he saw me as a threat to his relationship with Stuart, which is a weird thing to say. Like, that's not something a dog should think, but I think he did. And I think that he resented me trying to be a second voice of authority. He didn't want that. He was a very alpha dog, and he did not like being told what to do by anyone, but especially by me. So that morning, I got up and I was getting ready to take them out. And something that we do, and we still do it, is we have them sit and we have them wait until we give them permission to run outside. We don't want them just bursting through the door. We want them to be well-mannered, well-behaved. And so I was trying to get them to sit, and I was having a really hard time with Apollo, the other one, and I finally got him to sit, and I was trying to get Maverick to sit. He just wasn't doing it. And so I reached out and I took his collar to try to encourage him to sit. If you take a dog's collar and you kind of lift up a little bit under the chin, it'll usually make their hind end drop. And he growled at me, which isn't unusual in and of itself. He was kind of a growly dog anyway. But I was like, no, and I pulled a little stronger and he just snapped. And he bit my hand first. He bit this hand, the hand that was holding his collar. And it's all a real blur after that, like a very real blur. I don't remember the exact chain of events, but in essence, he basically worked his way up my body. He tore up my arms, he tore up my hands, and then he managed somehow, he either knocked me over or I slipped and fell. I honestly don't remember. But I was trying to keep him off and keep him back, and he got at my face and essentially ripped my upper lip and nose this way. So I'm wearing a shit ton of makeup right now, just in an attempt to kind of even things out, because it's like the lines are still very red and everything. But basically, like, there's a line going like this and then over like here, and it just, my upper lip and nose were hanging on by a thread over here. It was completely detached. That was when I realized, like, as everything was happening, I knew it was bad, but that was when I realized, like, this is bad. Like, this is really, really bad. He came after me a couple of different times. I managed to get up and I managed to get outside, and I was trying to get out my phone to call for help. And I don't remember if he pushed me and knocked me down the stairs, if I slipped, like, I don't remember. It was such a blur. But my phone fell out of my hand, and when I went to try to get it, he came back at me again, latched onto my left arm again, and was just like, if you've ever seen like police dogs go after and like take someone down, take their arm and just like shake it, he was doing that. And I just was standing there like begging him to let go. I just stood there and waited for him to let go, and finally I guess he had had enough, or he thought he had done what he needed to do, and he left. And I was so scared he was gonna come back. So I meant to call 911, but when I looked down at my phone, I was calling Stuart, which, hindsight being 2020, is a good thing, because if I hadn't, he wouldn't have had any idea what had happened. And so I called him and I told him that Maverick attacked me, and I said it was really, really bad, and that, like, my face, I told him my face was hanging off. I know this is really, really graphic, and I'm sorry, but anyway, he told me to go upstairs. We had a baby gate here before, and he told me to go upstairs to get away from them and go sit in the tub. And I said okay. Then I said I had to call 911. So I got a towel, and I was holding the towel over my face to try to hold everything. And I didn't know how much I was bleeding, and I didn't look in the mirror because I was trying to stay calm. I was afraid that if I saw what I looked like, I was gonna lose it. So I climbed in the tub, I was holding the towel, I called 911. And God bless those EMTs and firefighters and policemen. They got here within 5-6 minutes of me calling 911, and they were in here. I don't know how many people were upstairs. There were a ton of people upstairs, at least 2 EMTs, maybe 3 police officers. I'm assuming a firefighter. The dogs were going crazy. And they were so calm the entire time, like so calm, so matter of fact. They got me up, got me onto like this chair thing, carried me out to the ambulance. They asked me which of the dogs had attacked me, and I said it was the darker one. And they were like, okay. Animal control ended up coming and taking him away. And this is like gallows humor, I guess, but the EMT that was in the back of the ambulance with me as we were driving away asked me what my name was, and I said Rebecca, but I couldn't form words very well, because, you know, and he thought I said Erica. So for the entire ambulance ride, he was calling me Erica. I didn't even try to correct him. So we got to the hospital, and they got me in really, really fast, like really, really fast. Got me hooked up, got me like morphine, everything. The blessing in all of this is that I really couldn't feel anything. It was adrenaline or shock or some combination of the two, plus nerves and everything had been completely severed. I couldn't really feel anything. I just knew that it was really bad. And then they gave me the morphine, and that really helped a lot. And I remember laying there on a stretcher, and I had gauze like over my face and everything, and I don't know who it was because my eyes were closed, but somebody that worked in the ER came up and he like lifted the gauze, and he was just like, oh my god, that's so, like, basically like, that's so bad. And I was just laying there thinking to myself, like, come on dude, like, I know it's bad, but like, try to control your reaction here. Like, I'm kind of having a bad day. And I kept thinking, like, hoping that I would just pass out. Like, I honestly just wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to pass out and not have to think about anything anymore, but I didn't. I was awake the entire time. I'm really blessed that I ended up in the hospital that I did, with the care that I did, that I got the surgeon that I did. I ended up, the day that I was brought in, one of the best plastic surgeons in this area happened to be on call that day, and he was the one that operated on me. They got me in surgery in, like, I want to say an hour and a half of me being brought into the ER. Like, it was really quick, and I was under for about 2 hours while he stitched everything back together. And he is phenomenal. Like, I'm very fortunate to have had him. Stuart got there really, really quickly. He was able to leave work and get to me and was in the ER. And he was next to me like every single step of the way. He wanted to be in the OR and they wouldn't let him. They told him to go and meet up with animal control and like take care of everything that he needed to do while I was in surgery. But he was there every step of the way. So yeah, I came out of surgery and I've never been completely put under before. Like when I had my wisdom teeth pulled, I was kind of in a semi-conscious state, but I couldn't feel anything. Like I was really doped up, but I've been completely out. Like I remember being wheeled in to the OR and some guy telling me like, Dr. Senna's really great. Like you're gonna love him. Like he does fantastic work. I don't say that about everybody. Like you're gonna be fine. And then the next thing I know is I'm waking up in recovery and like surrounded by nurses and stuff. And I ended up spending a week in the hospital recovering from everything. Obviously I had all the trauma on my face and everything, but my hands were all bandaged up. I had stitches all up and down my arms. I couldn't really do anything for myself because of the nerve damage in my hands. It hurt. I couldn't pick up and hold a cup, much less feed myself. So I really needed to be there, and everybody was so fantastic. All of those nurses on that floor and everybody that I interacted with was so kind and so compassionate and just absolutely wonderful. There was one nurse named Dana who was in the recovery room with me, and she came up to see me on my floor probably 3 or 4 times during the week that I was there, just to say hi and check on me because she was worried about me. And that was really, really touching. And gosh, there's so much to this story. I feel like I'm all over the place, but the first 3 days, I didn't want to see what I looked like. I made Stuart cover up the mirror in the bathroom and keep the blinds closed at night so I couldn't see any reflections, but I hadn't had a shower in a few days, and there had been like blood and stuff in my hair because I had like defensive wounds or whatever like around my head. So there had been blood in my hair, and they like used this dry shampoo stuff when I got out of surgery, and it made my hair like matted. It was gross, like it needed to be washed. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna have a shower, like I need to see what I look like. I need to see what I'm dealing with. And so we took the towel down off the mirror. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. Given the fact that I knew it was bad when I got hurt, I mean, I could see out of the corner of my eye, I could see cartilage and stuff, like I knew it was bad. I was honestly, it was a relief to see that my face, while still swollen and like covered in stitches and scabs, it was still there, like it was still my face. And that was a relief. And I think that was a real turning point for me, because it was like, okay, like I can do this. Like I can overcome this. Like this is surpassable. Because in the back of my mind, when I was sitting in the tub waiting for the ambulance to come, and this is like, again, gallows humor, and I didn't legitimately want to die, but I was thinking to myself, like, I just need to die because I cannot be one of those women running around with no nose, as if that's something that happens, but that's like what my brain was thinking. But then I saw myself and I was like, okay, I can do this. So yeah, I was in the hospital for a week, came home, and basically I've just been waiting, watching everything stitch itself back together and heal. And it's been intense. You don't ever expect something like this to happen to you. You hear about it happening to people and you think, wow, that's really tragic, but you never think that it's gonna happen to you. You never think one of your dogs is gonna do something like that, especially dogs like these. We had absolutely, I promise you, we have been over and over it a million times, Stuart and I, trying to like think if we should have seen this coming, and we didn't. There was absolutely no way we could have seen it coming. You just don't think that something like this is going to happen to you, but it does. It happens all the time. And I joined a support group on Facebook for victims of dog attacks, And there are so many stories in there from all different kinds of people attacked by all different kinds of dogs and all different kinds of circumstances. And you would not believe, I think there's this idea that like, oh, animals don't do something unless they're provoked. But sometimes I think they do. I think there's an exception to every single rule. I think that in general, you know, most boys are good boys, most dogs are good dogs, but sometimes you have one that just has a wire loose, and sometimes they do just snap for no clear reason that you can understand, or just because they don't like you and they want to teach you a lesson. And that's what it felt like when Maverick came after me. It felt like he was trying to teach me a lesson. It felt like he wanted to put me in my place. And there was a part of me, some sort of like detached part during the attack, that was thinking to myself like, I'm gonna die. Like I honestly thought that he was gonna kill me, and he didn't. But there you have it. This experience has shown me a lot of things about myself and about the people around me that I think are blessings in disguise. It's shown me, for example, how good and kind people are, like the kindness that I've been surrounded by, the support that I've received from so many people that I honestly didn't even really think knew I was alive. And that's not to say that I don't think I'm like noticeable or like, I think I'm a nice enough person, but I don't go out of my way to like make a bunch of connections with people. And yet I had so much support, and that really meant so much. I can't stress that enough. And then also, Stuart, he just blew me away. I didn't think that this experience would like break us up or anything like that. I knew that we were strong enough to get through anything, but he has taken care of me through this entire thing, nursed me back to health. I mean, during that week that I was in the hospital, I could not do anything for myself. And he did it all. He fed me, he bathed me, like everything. And that's not something that you think you're gonna have to do for a partner for a long time. Like you imagine, like, you know, maybe someday down the line when you're old and gray, like those are things you're gonna have to do. But you don't imagine that being something in your 20s that you're gonna have to deal with. And yet life happens, and sometimes you do. And he took it all in stride. He kept a calm surface and put on a strong front for me, even though I know underneath it all he was struggling just as much as I was. And he held it all together, and that gave me strength and kept me going more than anything. I love him so much. He's an amazing human being. But it's just realizing those things, and then other things as well, things about myself that used to bother me, like physical attributes that I used to nitpick, now are like, I don't even worry about them because they don't matter. And obviously I've got a lot more going on to worry about. And then I think I have a real understanding of death, which is weird and maybe not a happy thing to think about, but it's a part of life. And 3 times in my life, I think I've been at a point where I thought that death was a possibility too, that I can remember very clearly. And this most recent, in that moment where I thought like, this is it, like I could die, he's going to kill me, I didn't want to die. But at the same time, I had this sense that if this was it and it was my time to go, I was okay with it. I wasn't afraid really at all, not of dying. I was afraid of what was happening to me, but of dying and leaving this physical plane, I had absolutely no fear. And I had a real sense of calm and almost comfort in that. And I think that that's valuable because I have a lot of complicated emotional feelings about death and dying, but I know at least now for myself, whenever that time comes and it's time for me to go, I'm gonna be okay with it. I'm gonna be able to accept it and go through that with grace. And I think that is incredibly valuable, and I'm thankful for that. And I know that's a weird thing to bring up and talk about, but it's a part of this whole experience. So what is next? What's gonna happen going forward? I have an appointment tomorrow. By the time you see this, it'll have already happened, to see an ENT to see if I need to have any kind of reconstructive surgery inside my nose to fix, because my doctor stitched up a lot of stuff in there, but he wants somebody who's specifically in the field of like ear, nose, and throat to take a look at it and see if they need to correct anything, because my breathing isn't the best. So there's that, and then later on down the line, there are things that we're going to be able to do to correct the scarring and the like disfiguration and everything, but that is still a long way off. We're talking years down the line, because there's still a lot of swelling in here, and like everything is still very much raw, and in the healing process, like inside my nose and stuff, things are still really, really raw. So it's going to be a long road. But the good news is it's not an impossible one. I'm going to be able to heal. Luckily, I was born in an age where modern medicine and surgery can do a lot of wonderful things. It's kind of funny, but while I was in the hospital, I watched TV constantly because I was just trying to keep my mind off of everything. And the thing I watched the most of was the TV show Botched, which is the one where the surgeons go and they fix people's like plastic surgery mishaps, or like they correct things. And everybody was like, why are you watching that? Like, watch something else. But I wanted to like give myself hope, I guess. I wanted to see that and be like, okay, if somebody can overcome this like tremendously disfiguring thing and like look normal, there's hope for me too. I don't know, that's my logic. But yeah, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna be a journey for sure, but I'm gonna get to kind of record that and see my own progress, and I think that that'll be therapeutic. And speaking of therapy, as you already know, I love therapy, but I've been going through that as well, because there's a side of this whole thing beside the physical. I'd say the physical is like maybe 40% of it. All of the rest is mental. And that is something that I want to make sure that I am being cognizant of and taking care of, and I'm focusing on my mental health, and I'm making sure that I'm doing the things I need to do to really heal mentally, because going through something like that leaves you with a lot of internal damage. And I never thought that I would be able to say that I know what PTSD feels like or anything like that, but I definitely do. I definitely get it, and it's not fun, and it's not something that I want to live with for the rest of my life. So taking proactive steps to deal with that is so important, and I want to do that. I owe it to myself and to everyone else around me. So yeah, that's basically the story. That's what happened. That's why everything came to a screeching halt. That's why everything is the way that it is now. You know, people keep telling me like, oh, you're so inspiring, you're so strong. And it's nice to hear those things, but I don't feel particularly strong. Not to say that I feel weak or anything like that, but I don't feel like I'm this bastion of strength. I just feel like I'm doing what I have to do. The entire time through this whole experience, from the moment I got attacked up to this present moment, I've just been doing what I've had to do to survive, to keep moving. I don't feel like that makes me particularly strong. It's strange to hear people say that, because I've never thought of myself as like this crazy strong person, but at the same time I do recognize that sometimes you're given a specific set of skills or personality traits that set you up to be able to deal with specific things. And I think in this case it's a perfect example, because I don't know that if I were of a different personality type that I'd be able to handle this as well as I am. And I do recognize the fact that it could be a lot worse. Maverick ended up being put down. We had him put down. There's no way that we could rehome a dog like that. If a dog is going to do something like that and think it's okay, they'll do it again. So we had him put down. That was a really tough thing to do, but it was absolutely the right thing to do. And I'm really thankful that Stuart was willing to do that because I know some people would put their pets before their relationships. But that's absolutely not the case for Stuart. So he's gone, and I can't say that I'm sorry. And honestly, I'm thankful that he didn't attack somebody else. I'm thankful that, like a kid, for example, because it's so much harder on little kids, and he could have. I'm thankful. It's a weird thing to say. Obviously, I wish it hadn't happened, but I'm thankful that it happened to me and not somebody else. We still have Apollo. He is sleeping on the couch right now, and he's an incredible dog. When I was getting attacked, he tried to get between Maverick and I, and he wasn't able to. Maverick turned him off pretty quickly because he was always very afraid of Maverick, but he tried, and I saw that, and I think that has contributed hugely to me not being afraid of him and being able to be around him and everything. He's an awesome dog, and I recognize that not all dogs are like Maverick. Most dogs are very good dogs, and that is what I'm going to try to keep in mind going forward, no matter what. You cannot keep bad things from happening to you. None of us are fortune tellers. None of us are Superman. You cannot protect your loved ones from things happening as much as you might want to. Sometimes shit just hits the fan, and you've got to be able to ride it out. And hopefully you have some strength and some faith that will allow you to do that, because it's important, and I know how hard it can be. But I am a believer that everything happens for a reason. I don't know yet what the reasoning behind this is. It seems like a very senseless act of violence, but I still believe that everything happens for a reason. And I believe that someday down the line, things will make a little bit more sense. So in the meantime, I'm willing to just continue working on myself and sharing my journey, and waiting until that day arrives. So I think that's it for this video. I just wanted to share my experience and everything. I know there's a lot of people who wanted to know the details of what happened. People who care, and then nosy little busybodies who just want a good story. They want that tea. Whatever your reason for clicking on this video is, I don't really care. That's up to you. This is as much for me as it is for anybody else. It feels good to be able to talk about it and share what happened, and also to be able to look at myself versus how I looked then, and recognize that I have made progress and that it's only going to get better from here. So yeah, I hope you got something out of this video. I hope that you are doing well, and I hope you recognize that if something terrible happens to you, you have the strength somewhere inside of you to overcome it and keep on moving. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in my life. Life is continuing to move forward, and good things are happening. So many awesome blessings that I'm going to be sharing. So you should subscribe. If for no other reason, then you get to see all of that go down, and give this video a thumbs up. And if you've ever been a victim of a dog attack, if you know somebody who has and they want to talk to someone, talk to me, feel free to reach out. And yeah, I will see you again soon for the next video. Bye guys.